views on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we'd love for you to go right ahead and like and share them on your favorite social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because it's about the science of caring. It's called Careology and hosted this evening by Miles McGrath.
Cliff, good evening.
Yes, and one of the final Tuesdays, a couple more, and then June the 5th, Mondays after Swap Shop at 10:05 in the morning.
So we're moving to a new time, Cliff? Mondays at 10?
Mondays at 10:05 on June the 5th, Monday the 5th.
June the 5th. Wow, that's going to be a cool audience.
Oh yeah, you'll have a fresh audience from Palm Bay to PGA, up and down the highway. You know, that's how we do it.
Beautiful.
All
Beautiful.
right.
For those who don't know, Careology is a part of CareBag, and CareBag is a nonprofit organization that's been serving the Treasure Coast for over 5 years now. We help our friends without walls. We supply them with hygiene products. We have 2 mobile shower units. Folks that are in need of diapers, Pampers, Depends, shampoo, things like that, we supply those. We have a pantry vehicle that goes out and does that. And Careology is a way of building awareness for our community, spreading positive information of awareness. And that's what we do. We have an event coming up, a little fundraiser coming up at Fujiyama Steakhouse in Stewart on May 23rd at 6 p.m. If you're interested, you can call our number 772-222-7399 or visit our website at www.carebagfl.org. And as part of building awareness in the community, I have the delight of interviewing a local author tonight who lives in Jensen Beach. Her name is Kim Duran, and she is a Christian writer of poetry, self-care, and short stories. Her passion for people is clearly evident in her written words of rawness and life. She has served in various ministry leadership roles for the past 12 years. Previously, Kim has written 2 books, Lead and Pack Your Suitcase. She is currently working on her 4th book. Kim resides in Jensen Beach with her husband, daughter, and dog. She has a great love for music. Kim is in a worship band that focuses on the community. In addition, she loves to cook, be outdoors, and comes equipped with a smile, for not a minute is taken for granted. If interested in having Kim speak at your church or group event, she can be contacted at kimdoranspeaks@gmail.com. She also leads a group of local writers. They meet together to help each other with their efforts and promote themselves. And I want to welcome Kim Duran. Kim, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the invite, Miles. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. What is the formal name of the writers group that you're part of?
It is called Book Talk. It originally started out with 2 of us, a friend of mine and myself, trying to go around to the local coffee shops or any venue that would welcome us in so that we could sit and talk about our passion of writing and share a little bit about ourselves and our books. And it's now grown to about 15 authors, and we do different book talk events throughout the Treasure Coast.
That is amazing. And do the members of the group find inspiration, or what do they get out of the group?
Teammanship is definitely something that is what it has become, where we've become a family and we support each other. Each author writes differently, and we've come to love and respect each other's giftings. We have a few children's authors, myself as a poet. There's also another poet in the group. We have someone that writes fiction. We have health writers. Honestly, we've got someone to fit any genre that someone might be seeking to read, but each and every one of us really incorporates our writing around our faith and sharing hope.
Are you open to having more members join the group?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say we have an open door policy, because then people will be running at us quicker than we can even get a chance to interview them. We are a Christian group. which limits, how much we can represent. And there are a lot of secular book groups out there that really don't have room for us. So this was designed specifically to have a team of Christian authors work together and to share the word for anyone that's willing to open their doors and listen to us.
Beautiful. Now, I looked at a little bit about your background. You have a unique background that you wouldn't expect. If I've got this right, you spent some time as a private investigator.
Yes, I was a private investigator for about 10 years. Had worked with others. I did my training in Martin County at the 19th Circuit, was offered a position before I even graduated, and went on to work with 3 different PI agencies in Martin and Palm Beach County. I was encouraged at that time, because they thought I was a quick learner, to open my own agency, which I did. It was called Foolproof Investigations. And I was doing that for about 3 years, really loving what I was doing, going into the jails, meeting with victims, talking with those that were accused but not convicted yet, just really trying to get to the truth of what may have occurred, and working with attorneys and law enforcement to make sure that the victims got justice, if that was the case, or those that were being accused and held in the jail system, if they weren't guilty, let's get them out. So I did that on and off for about 10 years.
So, Kim, I mean, it sounds like you had a successful career. You really were enjoying it. What was the turning point that got you into becoming an author? What happened in your life?
Okay. Well, I've always been interested in writing, and I have from a young years, probably as a teenager, written song lyrics, being a vocalist, and then also poetry. But I really only did it for pleasure and share it with just a few people and let it go. But back in 2010, I was having some health issues and went to the doctors. And unfortunately, I heard the dreaded word that starts with a C that many of us go through, which was cancer. And instantly, my life changed, because the focus had to go from being successful in the world to being successful in a healing. And although I was a Christian in 2010, I wasn't necessarily putting all my hopes and dreams into my faith. I was still trying to operate in my own strength out in the world. I was successful. I had the car, I had the suits, I had the family. I was putting a lot of eyes in there. And what 2010 and hearing that I had cancer did for me was it turned it very quickly from I to Jesus, I need you. I need you to pack a suitcase. I can't do this alone. This is life altering. I don't usually operate in fear. I work with people actually to help them through their fears. But this was one time in my life that I have to tell you, fear came knocking hard, and I had to face it. And the only way to face it was through my faith. So that was kind of the turning point, going through cancer, chemo and radiation. I just started to write more. And part of my self-care was walking into a church in Port St. Lucie and joining a writing group. I walked in with my head shaved, no eyebrows, looking like I was like near death, but I sat down and started to flow.
That is amazing. So you had this, you were drawn to writing from a long time, from your youth, songs and things like that. And this experience with illness pushed you in a kind of dark night of the soul, where you really were grappling with things, and you found writing a cathartic way of getting through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And was it the poetry that came out first, or what was the type of writing that was coming out at that time?
I was so comfortable being a poet, but I wasn't necessarily comfortable with some of the things I was writing, being very worldly and then stepping into faith. It's light and dark. It's night and day, literally on the page. And thankfully, I've saved many of my writings, because I can look back now and say, oh, who was that person? Also, the careers that I have had. I've always kind of been a public servant. I've been out there working amongst people that were victimized or really struggling or caught up in the stereotypes of life. So a lot of my writing portrayed that. Stepping into that writing group, you know, I felt like it was a release for me. So there's a lot of mixed writing there, poetry, short stories, random thoughts. And honestly, it became more about me allowing the Lord to move my pen rather than me wondering, does this sound okay? Does this rhyme? And even to this day, when I sit down to write, I just say, God, move my pen. And whatever comes out of it, I look back sometimes and I say, where did this come from? And then I have to chuckle because I know that's exactly what I asked for.
Got it. I had the opportunity of reading your books, three books. I'm glad you're working on a fourth one.
Thanks.
But I was inspired by, when you think about baggage, we think about the baggage that we're carrying around. We think about some of the negative thoughts we're carrying around, and you're kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like a guided workbook that you've got called Pack Your Suitcase.
Yes.
And when I first looked at that, I thought of, that's an interesting, the concept of, I want to let go of my baggage. But in your book, you're encouraging the person reading to go through this is to pack the bags. Now, that's kind of a counterintuitive, but I really enjoy that counterintuitive way. How did you come up with that idea of the, pack your suitcase?
Again, all God's doing. Pack your suitcase were words that I uttered when I was praying to the Lord after getting that phone call about cancer and declaring that I couldn't do it on my own. And all through that journey of testing and being poked and probed, and you need this and you need that, and let's put chemo in you, and now let's send you through radiation. I found myself a lot saying, I'm packing my suitcase of my fear and my worry. God, you got this. It led into, while I was teaching a Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon Bible study, where a group of ladies met and they would pack their lunch and bring it in, and we would eat lunch first and then go into studying scripture. And what I found is, as they were eating their lunch, everybody was griping. My husband this, my kids that, oh, the price of that, oh, this hurts, that hurts. So the first 15 minutes or so of being together, I was kind of getting rattled and throwing up my hands. And I was like, Lord, we can't go into studying scripture while we're spewing all this stuff that we're complaining about. We're supposed to be grateful beings. I know there's tough times, there's trials, but you're going to get us through it. So I asked them, I said, please pack your suitcase, put all that stuff that you just talked about and anything else that's sitting on your shoulders, put it in the suitcase, put it off over there next to the wall. And my hope is, after we do our study, that you don't have the desire to pick the suitcase up and take it back out the door with you. If you feel led to pick it up, let's go into the altar, because the sanctuary was available to us, and let's put it there and let's get rid of it. Because if you go out the door carrying the same stuff you came in with, why'd you come? And that's the truth in my writing. That's how raw it is, because how I write it is how I speak it.
So the suitcase is a metaphorical vessel
Yes.
to pack the negative emotions, the negative feelings, the jealousy, the envy, the fear,
Absolutely.
the hatred, the woe is me, and to put it in this container.
Yes.
And hand it over to a higher power, hand it over to God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even went one step further, and I found this cute little beauty in a thrift store. So when I teach this course, when I do a workshop, I have the suitcase. They can look at it, and I've written all the topics that are in there, such as obstacle, shame, guilt, fear, etc. Doubt is huge in our mindset, so that you literally have a metaphor. You have something that you can say, I'm going to literally put this stuff in there and close it shut, pray over it, and hand it over. I mean, the whole point of the journey is to release it, not step back into it. However, we're human, and that does happen. But we have to keep disciplining ourselves that this stuff does us no good. There's no purpose for these issues other than to hold us back. And in this life, having faced cancer and overcome it. I don't say survived it, I say overcome it, consider myself a warrior. And there's so many people out there that are warriors and some that are working towards becoming a warrior. Why do we want to waste time on these issues? It doesn't allow us to be the person that God has meant for us to be if we're carrying baggage. We'll never walk upright. Our shoulders will be hunched over. We won't believe truth, even if it came right up in our faces, because we're so consumed with what was, what I did, what was said, how it was handled. We got to release that and make room for the good things that he does want. You know, I'm not making light of people's struggles, because I've certainly had my own, and I've come face to face with people that have walked through things that I could never imagine walking through. But they're here and they're standing because there's a purpose for them. And to share their story, but not dwell on their story, really makes a difference in the path that they're on and in the lives that they're going to impact.
You know, the word that comes to mind to me, I was having lunch with a friend of mine, and the word that came up was hoarding. It's like we're hoarding these negative things.
Yes.
And this, if we can create this magical vessel to put that stuff we're carrying around in there, what does that make room for? If once we get rid of the stuff that negative things that we're hoarding, what do we have room for at that point?
Well, once we admit that we're carrying around stuff that we no longer want, you know, that's the hard part, is facing it, not walking in denial, recognizing that it is holding you back. If you can get that far, you're halfway there. The real work comes when you do take the challenge. And it's a small book, and people say, oh yeah, I'll get through this in no time. I wrote it like that, and I wrote it while I sat at my mom's bedside while she was transitioning from cancer over to heaven. It came so fast, faster than I've ever written anything in my life, but I see the purpose today and why it did. It was so needed. It was easier for me to write than it was for me to actually do the book, which of course I got commissioned to do. And I sat down for 4 hours at, you know, by myself with the Lord, paper, the book, and got real. And it wasn't pretty. It was definitely ugly. It was definitely messy. But I have to tell you, the person that came out the other side was who you're talking to today. And it lit up the path that he put me on. I have seen hundreds of people walk away from doing this course differently than they started. And I have some that have called and been honest and said, I'm struggling with, and we go back and we revisit that topic, because we are human. We're not perfect. We're going to struggle. And where one door closes, another one might open. But if we can get the tools and really stick to the plan and really want to be healed and to be well and to have your greater purpose show through, God's not going to deny us that.
You know, in reading and going through it, the one thing that stuck out to me that I was surprised to see, but I think there's an epidemic of not being able to focus on positive things in our life. And on page 31, there's that part about focus. I thought that was so beautiful. You don't see that. You know, there is so much attention deficit, and we're so distracted by so many things. And you know, your book kind of stops you for a moment. You're like, what are you focusing on every day? What are you focusing on? I thought that was really profound to have that exercise in there. It kind of caught me. I was like, wow, that really spoke to me. It's like, am I focusing on the negative? Am I focusing on what I don't have? Am I focusing on how somebody's mistreated me? Or am I focusing on gratitude? Am I focusing on a higher direction? Am I focusing on all the good things in my life? Even if it can seem overwhelming, it's not, we can all find positive things. Where did that notion of focus come? Like, how did that come about?
Well, I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in family and friends, and I certainly have seen it in each of the careers that I have. You know, focusing as a PI, you know, a lot of people say black and white, and I said gray, because there's two sides to a story and then actually what occurred. So my focus was Yes, give them the time and respect and hear their story. But then I really had to sit down and put my focus on piecing together what I had been told and whether or not it was a realistic um, concept into what occurred. So my focus had to be fine-tuned to that. In today's world where so much is thrown at us, you can't put the news on for 3 minutes without being totally disgusted or negative. So is that going to carry through for the rest of your day? You know, the minute my eyes open, I'm saying, thank you, Lord, because there was a time 13 years ago that maybe I faced my eyes not opening again. So I have a gratitude for opening my eyes, that first breath, my toes hitting the floor. Yeah, there's pain. There's neuropathy in the toes from my cancer treatment, but I can still walk. I can still breathe. I can still use my senses. So let me make the best of it. All too often people start speaking negative, and once you start to speak negative, you start to believe it because your ears hear your mouth, and then it's filtered from your heart. So where are you going to find joy? Where are you going to find hope? And more importantly, how are you going to offer any hope or encouragement to someone else if everything you represent and speak is negative? I certainly don't want to represent that, but I have to be honest that there's going to be struggles, there's going to be trials, but I'm confident that today's trial leads to tomorrow's triumph. I'm living proof of it. So are you. So if anyone that's watching has walked through something, yesterday, and they're standing here today and they're able to tell about it, we've got to learn to be grateful that we are still here to tell about it. Someone else needs to hear our story to help them through their story.
What you just said right there, someone needs to hear our story to help them through their story.
Yes.
How did you come up with, I mean, it to me, it rings true, but have you witnessed that before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get these little nudges. People always say, I don't know why I talked to a total stranger in Publix, or I was just going for a walk in the park and someone landed up walking with me. And I can't believe I talked to that person like I've known them for 20 years. That's not a coincidence. That's a divine appointment. God puts these people in place because there's something He wants you to share with them. I have walked into a store and been able to see that the cashier is not herself. She's got a broken heart or a lot on her mind. And the Lord will just give me a word for her. And the minute we start to converse, you can literally see the shoulders rest. They take that deep breath of someone understands me, someone gets me, someone can see that I'm walking through a hardship. These books, these are great books, but they're tools. They are vessels for me to be able to share with other people. Whether you're buying it online or coming to a book event and meeting me, or God prompts me in the park to hand it to someone because they're having a moment where they don't think anybody cares about them. Those are divine appointments, and I've made it a mission every day to ask God for those. I could plan out my day, but I can tell you, He changes it every time. I can plan out my interviews, but He leads the direction that the interviews go, because it's really all about sharing Him with everybody I come in contact with.
Uh, I noticed in your first book of poetry, Lead, which
Yes.
stands for Life, Emotions, Addictions, and Death, you had these, basically a category for each poem. Some were classified under life, some were emotion, some addiction, some death. Where did you come up with that organizational? Was that again a kind of intuitive thing that you came up with?
Absolutely. I knew when I was writing my poetry, when I
Yeah.
looked at the poetry and then I would read it back, what kind of an emotion did it stir up in me? Am I writing about a life situation that, you're just going to open the book to whatever page?
We're gonna, I guess, take a little break here. Cliff, go ahead.
Well, we can do that. You're listening to Careology, the science of caring, the art of caring as well, presented by CareBag each week, and we'll be right back.
Elite Electric Plumbing and Air. They are always here for you. 24/7 live answer, never talk to a machine. Same day service, fast turnaround.
Hi, this is Roxy. I use Elite Electric Plumbing and Air, and I will go nowhere else.
Call 772-291-1332. Fast, efficient, and honest service. Call Elite Electric Plumbing and Air at 772-291-1332.
If you could reimagine the way you buy a car, what would you do? Make it simple, make negotiations disappear, demand transparency, then experience amazing at your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. Car Buying Simplified. Treasure Coast Lexus is a proud sponsor of Careology. Every Tuesday at 6:05 p.m., caring and supporting for our community. Car Buying Simplified. Check out your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer.
We keep filtering.
This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, and back to Careology, the science of caring. Tonight's guest host is Miles McGrath.
Cliff, thank you so much. I'm going to reintroduce our guests tonight. We have Kim Duran here, who is an author, but I want to say is also a spiritual warrior as well, considering the journey she's been through. She's sharing her process, her writings with us tonight, and she's sharing her encouragement. And we were just talking about her book of poetry, her first book of poetry called Lead, which stands for Life, Emotions, Addictions, and Death. And I kind of bookmarked one of the poems in there. I was wondering if you would read, and I asked you to pick a few, but I want you to read the specific one on page 36 called Noise.
Okay.
If you could read that. I really was drawn to that one. I want to ask you some questions about that. So if you could read that for the audience, I would so appreciate it.
Sure will. Noise. Words of untruth spill out. Lies create rumor, talking about. Feelings get hurt. Judgment comes. Distance is felt. Pain numbs. Center of attention, not wanted. Fingers are pointed, now taunted. One who shares without truth causes utter turmoil, bad fruit. With selfish ambition comes division. Talk is cheap, unwanted vision. Think before speaking. Gossip destroys. No interest in unhealthy noise.
I just was really drawn to that. I feel like there's so much that we have to sift through today to find the meat of things. Where did you have an experience that triggered this poem, or how did this come out?
Actually, probably many experiences, both in my personal life and in my professional life. We unfortunately do live in a world that's very envious, very quick to talk and share without really seeking to know the truth, to making sure what they speak is truthful, and really not paying attention to the consequences that it causes the person that they're speaking against. So being a person that has always kind of come in on the bottom level and worked myself up, I took a lot of hits, behind my back in gossip form on how I rose to the top, because I was assertive, I was dedicated. I always made sure my appearance and the way I presented myself speaking, dressing wise, was always top notch. I took a lot of hits for that, instead of people saying, wow, look, she's really got it together. We can learn from her. Instead, they wanted to chip away. It was no different when I crossed over into the faith world, because, broken people hurt other people. So the rumor mill, the gossip train, I was on it more than I wanted to be. And also, I'm human. I'm guilty too, because when someone strikes out against you, you often strike back. So I really had to discipline myself with, don't strike back in anger or gossip. Really pray through this and say, Lord, even though I'm being attacked verbally and maybe not directly to my face, how can I protect myself? Which one of the ways is prayer. And how do I show that person that I can still love them and pray for them, even though I know they have loose lips? More times than not, I have welcomed someone with an open embrace that has run me through the mill. Yet when other people see that interaction, and it's all the Lord's doing, because my New York City upbringing growing up would be like, hey, come here. But, my faith has taught me the best way I can handle it is humbly. And when you speak something and you have actions that back it up, when I say I can forgive you and I can still love you, and then I can act on that, I'm setting the example God wants me to set rather than the example the world wants me to set, because the world wants me to get out there and throw words back. I've repented for my mouth, and I ask that others do as well. And just the other day, I posted encouragement. Who are you hoping to impact? What kind of reaction are you hoping to get by the things you say? Well, I'm hoping my books move your heart and they get you to think, and hope, more importantly, that they want you to change some of your ways, because there is a better way out there. Even if we think we're walking the walk, there's still room for growth. If I say I'm done growing and I'm done learning, why am I still here? I'm still here, so there's still much to learn and much to grow in. So when I write, I try to put myself in shoes of others. So a lot of these poems aren't necessarily linked to me. They could be linked to something I witnessed personally through, with a family member or a friend, or someone I saw on the street, someone that shared. And also ladies ministry, after 10 years of doing that, I've seen and heard a lot of things. So, a lot of their stories come out in my words without kind of really divulging who they are to protect their privacy, except for in Trials and Triumphs, where I had permission to write 8 testimonies because they wanted their stories out. They will stand behind their stories because they're here today because of God's mercy and grace.
I would really enjoy if you could share a few more of your poems.
Oh, I would love to. Which book are you referring? Is it Lead, Trials, or?
Whichever one you feel drawn to.
Okay. All right. I'll give you one from Lead called Held, and it's on page 41. And it is in the death category. But when people think of the word death, I don't want them to just think of physical death. I want them to think of death in the sense of death to a career, like I experienced, death to a relationship. I think we all can relate to that. Death to an illness, death to a way of thinking, etc. So not just physical passing over from here onward. This is called Held. It held me captive for far too long, has held me back from a new song. It's held me prisoner with locks on the door, has held me in a state of war. It's held me victim in a scars to show, has held me close, a hell to know. It's held me ransom, a high price paid, has held me trapped as truth now fades. It's held me unforgiven with doubt and shame, has held me lost and living in blame. It's held me broken and scattered in pieces, has held me desperate, so ready to release it. So that one could fit anybody and everybody, because each one of those verses, stanzas that was written, talks about different areas of life that any one of us could have walked through. We've all have felt held back, held down, locked up, neglected, not heard, unseen. And a lot of times we find the way to get out of that is to stop thinking those thoughts, stop believing what you're being told, and step into a new way of, I'm not supposed to be held back. If it's a good mission, the doors are going to open wide for you to go through it. If it's not a good mission, you've got to do something about getting yourself off of that negative assignment, because chances are you've placed yourself there or someone introduced you to it and they weren't doing you any good. They were doing you harm. So break free from that. We're not meant to be.
It's interesting. The word held, I think of, has double meanings, right? It's the held. Yeah. You can hold somebody underwater, but you can also hold a child in your arms and comfort them. So it's an interesting way to say, how am I being held? Am I being held by love right now, or am I being not held in a wrong way? So right. I like that aspect of that poem.
I'm glad you mentioned Miles, because a lot of people look at a word and it does have double meaning, but they pick one side or the other.
Right.
And it makes it very hard to walk through life and call yourself a compassionate, understanding person if we only see something one way.
It's funny. I had another poem marked, and it's the one in the next page called Slot.
Okay.
And we if we drive around the area, we see some of these things happening. If
Yes.
you could read that one, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Slot is out of the topic addiction. Again, as I did with death, I want to explain addiction is not only drugs and alcohol. Addiction covers a lot of windows: ego, food, social media, gambling. I could go on and on and on with what addiction really, shopping. Everybody says, no way, but it's true. It happens. Slot. The sound intrigues with whistles and dings, lights and colors, all excitement and flutters, so sleek to feel. With buttons and handle, cherries and sevens, bring life in numbers as bell rings. With satisfying delight, turning of coins fills up the night. But what comes quickly is then gone as more is spent, leaving you all done. The cycle created with gadget and tool to lure you in, take up the stool. For hours consumed with hope and greed, music and drinks complete the scene. Chances are slim in slots and cards. Winners and losers will stand apart. The game destroys with lies and deceit. All sevens rare, leaving you beat. Quit while ahead with no need for play. Stand and say, this is not the way. Take no chances with thrill of game. The lure and bait only pulls you down again.
Definitely summarizes that.
Yeah.
It brought me back to a moment in the Bahamas in a casino where I was heading back to the ATM. I need to get more money so I can gamble more. It's like, time out.
Right.
Well, who's running the ship now?
Exactly.
Like, who's in charge over here? And it just brought back those memories. Thankfully I've learned my lesson, but it's just,
Amen.
that is a great poem there. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
What are some of your other favorites you have that you want to share?
Trials and Triumphs is my newest book, and it picks up where Lead left off, but it also talks about real people's lives. And I wanted to read one that I marked off a few, but you just mentioned something about you're glad that you learned your lesson. And there's one called Old Chapters, because I think a lot of us have learned a lot of lessons, and some of us are still working through some lessons that need to be learned. Don't give up hope, just keep plunging along. But if it's making you think and it's drawing you back to somewhere that wasn't good, then it's definitely time to make it an old chapter. And that's what this is called, Old Chapters. When time stands still, no words can be said, every muscle stiffened, no script to be read. Hearts pump extra hard while you taste reality, now forever changed, different view in totality. Well, onward you go, no sense looking back. What was has changed, undeniably, that's a fact. Here's to moving ahead, old chapters stored away, preserved in memory with new ground to lay. Really felt it was important to let people know it's okay to put the things that you have done and experienced behind you. And when it's supposed to come out, God will make the time for that to come out. There's many things I've worked through in my life that I don't want to keep reliving because I've overcome them, I've surrendered them, I've repented them. So if I keep bringing up the same things day in, month out, year after year, have I really laid them down? And I really have a short fuse with excuses. I really am not the type of person you want to sit and have coffee with if you're going to make excuses, because I'm going to call you out on them. It's just my upbringing, the only way I know how to be. And if we're busy making excuses, we're not making room for the new opportunities. Plus, you lose people. People don't want to hear your old stuff. However, I have found there have been times in my life where God will bring something into my brain and I'm like, I don't really want to share that. That was hurtful. That filled me with shame. It's not something I'm proud about. And he's like, use it. This person needs to hear it because right now they're stuck in it. And although we walk in different shoes, we have similar experiences and our outcomes are unique to us as individuals. Something I put out on that table that they hear will touch their heart and it will help them make a decision about whether or not they move forward or whether or not they stay stuck. I certainly want to promote moving forward.
I heard something recently by, I don't know if you've heard of Wayne Dyer, but he talks about the past being like the wake of a boat. And the wake of the boat's not driving the boat forward. So don't get focused on the wake. Look forward, be in the moment. So it speaks to what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, when we get into this type of spiritual domain, when we're leaning on God, oftentimes coincidences will happen, things that you just can't explain will occur in our life. And you look back at it and you say, there's no other way to explain it. Like I didn't ask you to prepare for this question, but does anything come to mind in this journey that you've had with writing these books and sharing this information? Have you had one of those, like, you try to figure it out and there's no other way, like this person came at the right time? Or can you share something like that?
I think there's been many. I will tell you, I don't know if it was a person, but I will tell you, being so focused on owning an agency and representing those that I felt were unjustly treated, and then switching over from that and still finding a population that I can offer hope with better tools. I became better equipped because of all the little nudges and interactions that the Lord placed me in. One of them specifically was going through chemo, healing, attending a group, and having one of the house pastors come over and say to me, the Lord told me that you are going to lead ladies ministry. And I kid you not, Miles, I cracked up laughing. And if you hear me laugh, I've got this deep chuckle, like, go away. This is, you're not being real. And he said, no, for real. You are the person. And the way he looked at me, I could tell he was speaking in total truth. And everything inside of me kind of froze up for a minute. And like my whole being was surreal because I could hear God saying, yes, the message is real. I have chosen you for this. And I remember standing there and he was asking me, are you okay? And I'm not usually short for words, but I was short for words because my ears were busy listening to the message I was getting, that I was going to lead ladies ministry, even though in my human mind and power and strength, I was like, no way, not interested. This is not for me, find something else. And it was right there in front of me. And it was amazing that when I checked back into reality, I looked at him and I said, okay, but I won't do it alone. I need a team, because I was so used to being brought into things and then just given the keys or the title and go with it. And often having to basically build something from nothing, from scratch on my own. And then people came in to jump on board. This time I was setting up conditions. Okay, Lord, you packed your suitcase, you healed me, you put me here today, you delivered this message. I can't do it alone. Bring me those team players to create this ladies ministry of hope and encouragement, because I can't in my own power. I don't want to do this alone. And that was a huge crossing over for me, because I started to rely only on me and not really see the giftings that other people had. And it did flourish. The first one flourished for 3+ years until the Lord said to me, time to go, leave it in other hands and go somewhere else and start another one there. For 10 years, I did this. And I saw countless lives, including my own, transformed, encouraged. And then he said, you're going to sing and you're going to write. Now he's got me walking in the shoes of an author. And your interview tonight is key, because for a long time it was me, myself, and another little author sitting in a coffee shop hoping somebody would walk in and talk to us. Now he's opening doors, venues, people are coming on board. When's book talk? Oh, let's do a podcast. Oh, I'd like to interview you. This is all the Lord's doing. So I have seen the supernatural giftings of the Lord on my life as an author, on my life as a mom, a daughter, a mother, a wife, you name it. He has just laid out the foundation, and all I have to do is show up and be willing. I don't know what tomorrow holds. He does.
You know, what you're talking about is, I think, transformation. And I strongly believe that through our creative process, whether it be painting or singing or writing, there is we are creating, and in that creation, we're transforming something into something else. And I feel that has a power. And I'm wondering if, in your writing, you felt that, you felt that. Is that what's happening there? I'm trying to understand how this happens, but I've seen it happen in different individuals. And I just wonder, for you, having gone through that, have you kind of looked at that and wondered how that's happening, or how would you describe that for yourself?
Absolutely. And, honestly, Miles, I often say I'm a woman of many words. There's not much I can't converse about. However, when it comes to what God does and the moments that he does it, whether it's my pen moving and then looking back after the pen has finished flowing and seeing what has come out, there's no way I could do that on my own. Singing, I've had people walk up and say, I love the way you worship. I used to be a rock and roll singer in New York. Now I'm worshiping here in Florida for the last how many years. And I'm not physically or mindfully aware of what's happening. I just know that I want to give all glory to the Lord. And when this Holy Spirit comes upon me and I'm worshiping, you would know better what I'm doing than I, because you're witnessing it. I'm experiencing it, and I can just tell you it is good. It is light. I don't know where I go, but I go exactly where he wants me to be. So I call it being selfless. I'm not focusing on me. Were there times I was focusing on me? Yeah. My outfit, my hair, the song, what does the person next to me sound like? Those were all distractions. When I finally say, I'm humbly here on my face before you, do with me what you want, he moves, whether it's writing, whether it's singing, whether it's having a conversation. Even tonight, we talked a little bit about the books and maybe what we might share, and look at the direction it has taken. It's in his control, and I'm quite okay with that. He makes it easy when we give him the wheel.
I agree. I think some would call that like a flow state. You're in that flow state and you're not aware of time, and things are effortless.
Agreed.
In that flow state. If you could go back and talk to your younger self and give yourself some encouragement, what encouragement would you give before you started this process, before you started this? What are some of the lessons that you've learned that you would like to tell yourself?
I have no regrets. And I think I've walked through exactly what I was supposed to walk through, good, bad, and in between. But I will say this, if I could turn back time, I really wish I had listened to what my parents were saying, because they were right. And raising now, soon to be a 21-year-old daughter, and having raised other people's kids, that have come through my care and working, I mentor young adults and youth. Listen to your parents. You may not like everything they say and do, but they've lived life, and they just want you to not have to walk through some of the things and the hurts that, we have walked through as adults. But then I also say to the adults, to the parents, let them live. They're going to learn through the lessons that they walk through, and they will come out on firm foundation if your house and your heart are filled with kindness and encouragement. Our children will reap those qualities. And I have no doubt, even in the ways of the world today, that with everything our kids are going through, if we just keep praying over them and offering them hope and saying, I know this is a trial. I don't really understand it because I didn't walk through the many issues that you're walking through, but I did walk through other things. And I'm here today to tell you about them. You know, so that it's a circle, it's a cycle. We have to spend more time listening to each other and not being so quick to put our opinion in, because opinions kind of shoot people down when they have a dream or they want to share something. And we come in there real fast and kind of chip away at their dream. I want people to strive towards their dreams, especially if their dreams are good, not only for them, but for others along the path.
Looks like we got a couple minutes left. If you could give our audience, Kim, one little homework assignment that they could take with them and do something, what little assignment would you give them?
Okay, well, book number 4 is called Stand in the Mirror. It's a follow-up to Pack Your Suitcase. And I would love for our audience, yourself included, to stand in front of a mirror. Just stand there and look at yourself. I know we're all going to see our hair, our face, our clothing, our expression, the lines on our face, whatever. But I want you to stand there and really look at yourself and then think, how does God see me? Because I can guarantee you all the things that you see, he sees something so beautiful, something so incredible. And when we can connect with what he sees, the assignment that he puts upon us will be easily attained.
I can't think of a better way to end the program than that. This was a great interview with Kim Duran here on Careology. We're so grateful to have you. Thank you, Kim. And
Thank you.
video will be in our archives clip. I'm handing it over to you, sir.
Alrighty. Well, keep up the good work. Wow. Every one of these shows are exciting and informative and just fantastic. Thank you, Miles.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. You've been listening to Careology, the science of caring. Visit Carebag, givecarebag.com, givecarebaginc.com.
It's carebagfl.org.
Carebagfl.org, right here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again